Henrik Flornes joins us. He's written a book called The Ease of Being. Henrik, I love the title. And right away, your mind starts thinking about so many different things. But even the title makes me feel at ease. And I know that it has spirituality mixed in because of the, again, the title and sort of the lifting of how our souls feel. But what led you to write this book?
Well, I came here 7 years ago from Norway, and I thought I needed to kind of convey this beingness that I kind of had discovered within myself. So that's when I kind of started to find the words over these 7 years to kind of start giving words that people could connect with and kind of return to that ease and beauty within themselves that we kind of have within our being. But my kind of journey started about 20 years ago when I went to chiropractic school, and I had this realization that we are all not really connected to our bodies. It seems to be full of tension and degeneration, and the body felt frail. So I was 21 years old at the time, and that was a shocker for me because I was just finished in the military. I was playing soccer. I felt great. And then I realized that I had all this degeneration in my spine. And I was like, wow, that means that I'm kind of disconnected. And then, so from my dad being a medical doctor and meeting chiropractic and also meeting Tai Chi, which is kind of this slow motion kind of energy movements or self-defense from China, I kind of realized that there was different ways to connect with the body, and everybody seems to talk about the body and the health of it. But then I realized that, well, they all seem to kind of imply that there was some stress in the body that I wasn't aware of. And then I met this teacher that kind of was trying to tell me to drop my shoulders. And I was like, well, if I'm going to drop my shoulders, does that mean that I wasn't able to do it? It was just kind of weird because I'm so good at doing body stuff. I was so good. And here I met something that I wasn't good at. And it kind of implied, I realized that it kind of implied that he was kind of telling me to relax. And I was like, well, that sounds like what old people need to do, not a 21-year-old. So then, but then I was like, wait, does that mean that I'm stressed? And I didn't feel stressed. I felt fine. But then when I truly kind of had to go deeper into it, I had to dare to surrender to what he was saying. And as he kept telling me to drop my shoulders, I kind of went through this kind of vulnerable feeling, frustration. And then suddenly, when I totally had to be wait, I have to trust him. I have to trust that there is something deeper. And suddenly, from one moment to the other, I suddenly had this kind of out-of-body experience where I suddenly looked at my body from behind. And suddenly, it was my body was looking up at me, kind of stuck his head out like a turtle and said, I'm here. And I'm alive. I'm listening. And I'm like, whoa. And in that moment, the whole body just kind of relaxed, sunk down, and it was just, I didn't feel anything, but I was watching it from the back, from being. I was watching the body, and I was like, oh my God, that's what it means. So then after that, I started this kind of journey to be wow, if the more we can return to this simplicity and ease of being, the more our body will start relaxing. And kind of it becomes this ease and flow of life that you can kind of take with you. So that's kind of what I'm bringing into this book to kind of help guide people just as I've been guided myself.
Yeah, and I love how you describe that and getting into the flow and your body and you not even realizing that. And we're not going to give everything away, but just tell the listeners some of the things they can do, because I guarantee there's people that have problems dropping their shoulders. I was just thinking that I think I do after you said that.
Yeah, well, that's why it took so long for me to kind of, well, how do I explain this to people? It took a while to kind of I could kind of guide people more with touch in the beginning. I was like able to kind of show people. And then gradually that's when I found words and kind of like there has to be an intention. So it's like you kind of have to open up that it's possible. That's kind of what I realized. I had not known that it was possible. Nobody told me this. So first I kind of had to open up that, yeah, we have it is so easy to connect and to relax, but we kind of need to like make room for it. We have to make room for like this kind of connection with ourselves where we kind of allow ourselves to kind of ease. So it's just kind of like, I don't try to like put too much mind into it, too much words. So that's why I kind of use a lot of silence in my writings, because it's more just, it is so natural. It's like when we were a little baby, we were like all at ease. But we kind of forgot about it because we were so pristinely in our being at that time.
Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to remind people. It's more of a reminder because it's so instinctively with us that I don't try to like force people to it. They need to be open to be like, oh my God, maybe I need a little bit more of that. And then they start to be like, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah, so the idea of that, because, this is your fourth book. So you have, in this whole mastery of ease and what you talk about, and I mentioned spirituality because you say with this book, it reaches all kinds of people. Any kind of person could really use the book.
Right.
But those who are more spiritually inclined really can gravitate toward that ease that they might have lost. Like you were someone who didn't even know you had it.
Right. So, yeah, in Norway, people are kind of less spiritually inclined. So I use more words of relaxation and well-being. But in America, people are a little bit more open to the word spirituality because it just means that coming alive. And when I realized that the body is alive, that means that we're alive. And I guess I always thought the body was kind of like a machine. Just eat this, do this, act right. But it's like kind of listening to you. So you kind of have to treat it with kind of kindness and just, it's like a love relationship. So it kind of just shifted my whole perspective. We're like, wow, if the body's alive, then I was like, wow, life is alive. And it became like it became easier to understand myself when I realized my body was alive.
Your body's alive.
So
yeah. And so when people read it, what I think you're telling us this, but what do you, because you've become sort of a little master of ease, I would say, what do you hope people take away from the book?
Yeah, so I've written a few already, but they kind of grow because I've kind of been kind of mastering this way of conveying this over this time. So I've had some people who they could feel almost like there's like an energy shift, or they suddenly feel like they're not themselves, that they find like new connections inside of them. So it has, that's kind of the way I've kind of felt this journey with myself for these last 20 years, that it's kind of a growing sense that you suddenly are starting to shed some of these emotional traumas or physical tensions within, and like belief systems that just kind of makes you trapped, and suddenly you start to discover this freedom within, and so this book is kind of just there to give you a little bit, like they're almost like small proverbs where you kind of like tune into a chapter a day, or we open it up sometimes, me and my wife, and like on one page, and we just kind of take with us that kind of juice within it, the nectar within it, and it starts to permeate from inside, and you start to just, oh wow, I am more at ease, because it's so inconceivable in a way.
Right. And now the world is more, like you talk about the 21-year-old man that comes to the U.S., the world is different in the 20 years plus that you've been in the United States, and you see it, and you see it just around the world too, even where you're from.
Yes. So that is kind of like, I've been kind of talking about this in Norway, looking at America. Was, my family, a lot of them studied in America too, so we looked at it, different, but now we see all this changes. The whole world has become kind of more alive, but then that also makes people more aware of all these different belief systems and the COVID and all this stuff that hits the humanity. But I kind of see this as this felt like the perfect time for this book to come out, so that we can have all these mental and emotional stuff going on, but we have to dare to choose ease or like that silence within. So it becomes more important now. So I was like, wow, it literally like this book kind of came out and it was like finished now. And I'm like, wow, this is perfect, because I'm starting to feel that people need it more than ever, because people are becoming more conscious, kind of.
Yeah, I think they're becoming more conscious, definitely. All right, The Ease of Being, you can get it Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Henrik, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.